Let's bring in Democratic strategist and GMA contributor James Carville. James, good morning.
Good morning, Elizabeth. Good morning.
So let's begin with the man who's giving Mitt Romney the most run for his money in Iowa, and that is Ron Paul. A New Hampshire newspaper yesterday called him, quote, a dangerous man who spouts nonsense. Is Ron Paul a one-state wonder?
I don't know. I mean, the one thing he can do is he can keep going. He doesn't need to win to raise money. He's not in the confines of a sort of traditional campaign. So he's going to be around for a long time. And Romney's very smart the way he's handling him right now. He's not attacking him too much because he knows if Paul keeps going or runs as a third party that would hurt him in a general election. So the smarter candidates are having to handle this guy with kid gloves. He's a real threat out there to him in a general.
But are Ron Paul's remarks on foreign policy hurting him at all? I mean, when he says things like Iran has the right and should close the Strait of Hormuz because U.S. sanctions against Iran are unjustified?
Well, sure, to one extent it makes him unacceptable to a large number of Republicans, but the people that are supporting him are hearing two things. Number one is he wants us out of all wars, and number two, he wants to legalize drugs. And thirdly, to some extent, they hear some talk about the Fed and printing money. So that's what that's his message that's breaking through with a lot of people, in particular these younger people. I have parents telling me all the time, you can't believe my kid's actually for Ron Paul. And I think that's to a large extent why. Yes, he's totally unacceptable to the Republican Party establishment. He's totally unacceptable to a wide number of Republicans. But he don't only need 20% or 25% to cause a lot of mischief over there. I mean, a whole lot of mischief.
Are you at all surprised by John's reporting on this latest poll showing Newt Gingrich slipping now to 5th place? I mean, this sudden second precipitous drop for him in the polls?
Actually, not too much, because the history of this thing has been once somebody starts to slide, if it was Perry, if it was Herman Cain, if it was Bachmann, if it was anybody, once you start to slide, you kind of toast. There's
but he slid once and managed to come back up.
He didn't slide. He managed to have a run, and then he got high, and then he went back. Then he went back down. He kind of started with not very much. He shot up, and then he shot back down. A kind of inverted V curve, I guess you would call it.
And what do you make of this bizarre dust-up between Michelle Bachmann and Ron Paul's campaign, where Michelle Bachmann's campaign manager defects? She accuses the Paul campaign of bribing him.
Well, look, Elizabeth, in politics, if you're a difficult person, but you're going to win, people will stick with you. Or if you're a pleasant person and you're going to lose, people will leave you. She's had this problem for a long time. Remember, Ed Rollins quit. She's lost any number of people on the congressional side during the campaign. My guess is that she's a difficult person to work for, and she's going to lose, and that's caused her a lot of grief over the course of the campaign, and it's continuing to cause her grief.
There have been a number of polls recently that have shown that if Mitt Romney is the nominee, that he might have a good chance of beating President Obama. How much cause for concern is that for the president?
Well, I think the president and his people, they're very smart. I think they know they're in a very difficult thing. If you look at the economy, you look at the unemployment rate thing, you look at the presidential approval, it tells them they're in for a tough battle. But on the good side for them, it seems to be gotten somewhat better over the last couple of months. And they're also aware that the demographics are going to be much better for them in the presidential year than they were in 2010. So, look, it's always going to be difficult, but it's a little more hopeful now for President Obama than it was a couple, 3 months ago. And I guess they take some solace in that. And
finally, very quickly, James, former Labor Secretary Robert Reich ignited a controversy yesterday by saying that predicting President Obama would take Hillary Rodham Clinton as his running mate in this next election. What do you make of that? Is there any chance?
I don't know, but I know one thing that doesn't make one Hillary Rodham Clinton very, very pleased with all this talk about that. There was some other op-ed piece, and look, she works for the president, and she worked with the vice president. She's very close to him, and I suspect that she doesn't appreciate all this speculation. So, knowing that, having a pretty good idea that's the case, I'm going to back off from it. But obviously, I think the world of it. She'd make a great contribution to anything.
All right, James Carville, thanks so much for being here.